Thanks everybody for coming. This is panels of VI climbing and calling panel hosted by Pair Cliffhangers. I'm Christina Fleming. I am the program director for Pair Cliffhangers, and I just want to thank Phoebe for bringing this to my attention and getting this whole thing started. Our goal today is just to educate people on what VI climbing and calling is, and then maybe get some folks interested in becoming callers. We have a competition coming up in March. The USAC Paraclimbing Nationals will be hosted in Maryland, and so we're hoping to get some more people, some more VI climbers partnered up with callers to prep for that. So who we are, the people that are kind of going to be speaking today are Phoebe Barkin. She's a World Cup silver medalist. Andrew Martinez is a B3 climber. Emmeline Lacroix. Did I say that right, Emmeline?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, pretty much. Lacroix.
Lacroix. Is a B1 national team member. Kevin Chow is a B2 or B1 sometimes national team member. Ellie Neer is a B3 climber and one of our chapter leads for the Bay Area. And then I'm the program director. Cool. Cliffhangers, if you don't know much about it, our vision is that all people with disabilities have access to and can find community in rock climbing. And our mission really is that Cliffhangers expands the rock climbing community to include people with disabilities. We foster joy, empowerment, adventure, community, and equity through indoor, outdoor, and competitive climbing. We also have indoor chapters in California, New Jersey, New York, and North Carolina, with more growth to come. And then additionally, we host outdoor trips to places like the Gunks, upstate New York, Yosemite, New Jack City, Lake Tahoe, and we attend USAC Paraclimbing Nationals each year. On this slide, there's a picture of a bunch of us from last year at USAC Paraclimbing Nationals, right in front of the wall. I think we had over 40 people there as a quote-unquote team, a competitive community, and we're looking to do the same thing this year. So our overview for today, we're going to talk about just blind and low vision general information. We're going to talk about what VI climbing and calling is, and we're going to talk about techniques for calling for VI climbers, and then that'll be afterwards we'll have a Q&A, and the Q&A will be with some more. So we have our speakers for the presentation, and then the Q&A, there's some more people that will be here to just be able to answer questions. They do calling, they're VI climbers, all that jazz. So I'll hand it off to our first speaker. We're going to talk about climbing with VI climbers general info.
All right. Pretty sure that is me. So just for a general understanding of blindness and visual impairment and the entire spectrum. So visual impairment is quite a broad term. If you want to take a starting point is the legal definition of blindness, which is a visual acuity of 20/200 or less, or a field of vision that is 20 degrees or left or less. The acuity number, that basically means that a person who is legally blind can see at 20 feet what somebody with average sight could see at 200 feet, and that is with correction. So you can't be legally blind without your glasses, because necessarily legal blindness has to mean even with glasses, that's the best vision you can have. I think something like 80% of legally blind people actually have some vision, and visual impairment is even a larger category than that, because some people, maybe they can see, but if they try to focus their eyes, they get migraines, or for various reasons, they can't really use their eyes. And so when we're talking about it here, we're really talking about anybody for any reason who can't use their vision in a standard way while climbing that they find helpful. Couple things to keep in mind when you're talking to folks who have a visual impairment is that people are in different places in their VI journey. Some people are really cool with it. They've been blind their whole lives. They have a billion blind friends. That's kind of me. And I think a lot of the folks on the call today, other people are more reticent and maybe don't want to talk about it as much, but still want to be able to climb. Maybe this is their first time getting into an adaptive space. So just be really thoughtful about that. And when you're asking somebody about their vision and all that stuff, just remember to never be voyeuristic about that, right? We're not focusing on a medical condition. blindness is a way of life, and it's a way of living, and it's important to treat it that way, and not get hung up on specific like medical criteria, because it doesn't matter, and a lot of times they can just make a blind person feel really reduced to that, and also most of the time the story is really boring. It's a genetic condition, so not that exciting anyway. I gave you your answer 90% of the time. Yeah, I'll pass it off to whoever is next.
Okay, so I'm going to go over some of the etiquette and some of the strategies to kind of just more seamlessly hang out with some blind people. So the use of names when you're introducing yourself can be really helpful. So when you come up to somebody who's blind or VI, you could just say, "Hey, blank, it's Andrew. How are you doing?" And that really helps with just getting to know who's in your surrounding. I know it can sometimes feel like I'm ignoring somebody, but sometimes it could, I just don't know that they're there, or I don't quite recognize their face until they introduce themselves. So letting them know your name is really helpful, as well as saying hello and goodbye. So if you're going to take off somewhere, just saying goodbye could be a good strategy to let them know that you're off, and don't leave them talking to themselves. And then guiding. So guiding is a way to give someone assistance in traveling. This can be either requested by the traveler, or this can be something that you offer to them. So it could be a way for you to maybe help orient them to the gym or to a certain area. And there'll be a video, a resource at the end of this presentation, so you can see it. It's definitely better to see it. But essentially, what you're going to do is not grab somebody who's blind or VI and move them around without their permission. That's the biggest thing to focus on. Is just you definitely are going to ask first, is it okay, would you like a guide? And you can use words like, is it okay if I touch the back of your hand or your elbow? But definitely always ask for consent. So the way you would initiate guide is essentially after you have asked for it, you just would touch the back of their hand, or sometimes they'll reach out their hand in kind of like a cupped manner. And once you've kind of initiated contact, they'll follow their hand up to your elbow and then trail slightly behind your walking pace. And then they'll, and you two will just walk together like normal. They'll typically have their cane out as well, just protecting the side that you are not on. And then just a heads up as well, the cane will be looking for things kind of chest level and below. So if there's a wall or a branch protruding out into like around their head level, the cane will not be able to pick that up. So you can just call it out and let them know that that's in front of them. And then the use of tapping as kind of an auditory cue can be really helpful. So if you're trying to guide somebody to their route, you can kind of tap if you have a ring, it really helps. You could tap your ring on the hold or your finger and just use that auditory cue to help direct somebody to their route.
So climbing with VI folks, kind of etiquette continued. So make sure we don't want to assume anyone's abilities. For example, whether if we think they can belay or how to tie knots, their vision or climbing levels, we always want to kind of ask or assume kind of like that they can, unless they're expressing that they're having challenges or difficulties or asking for help. So about like belaying, most VI climbers can belay by feel, like if there's slack in a rope or if there's tension or kind of, but really communication is key if you need additional slack or if you didn't take or if you're ready to lower. So establishing that two-way communication. If there's occasions where like the gym could be noisy or kind of extra crowded, it'd be good to either call out by like name of like, like Kevin ready to take, or Kevin lower, or whatever the person's name that's going to be belaying, or so working together is like routes. Some things to discuss are like wall angles, grade, or color contrast. So, or even like the lighting. There's, depending on like one's vision impairment or what they can see, they may prefer different types of color holds. For example, I think generally like the B1s or B2, or at least some of the other ones I've climbed with, they kind of prefer like darker holds, like I prefer black or blue or purple, or kind of the darker colors on a lighter wall, versus I know some of the B3 climbers, like Andrew and Ellie and PB, like generally prefer like lighter ones and stuff like that. So it's really preference. And then, so people who are blind, they use canes to kind of navigate, as like Andrew was mentioning, to determine obstacles and avoid things. So we don't want to move people's canes without asking, because that's their access to safety and their surroundings and like mobility and stuff. So we just want to like treat them as that's a part of the person. So more about kind of climbing with VI folks and continue. So I guess Ellie's going to talk about service animals. I'm going to talk about canes.
Do you want to talk about canes first, Kevin?
Yeah, I can go do canes first. So there's kind of all different types of canes, different colors, shape, folds, and unfolds. But I guess the biggest thing is that a person uses a cane for a couple of reasons. They use it for like an identification of like letting other people know that they are vision impaired and stuff like that. It's like for particularly like found in the gym environment, of either when people see or don't see my cane, it kind of makes a difference. But then also more about that the cane is helpful for finding like foot level obstacles or just things in the way. But I guess the kind of important things to know is that's their tool. That's part of them. Like if you're gonna need to move it, let them ask them, or kind of. But yeah, if it's and I guess in terms of, I've generally found either like with my cane, with the route I'm climbing, I'll kind of place it at the base of the climb I'm climbing, so I kind of know where it's at. It's also out of the way, and if like I'm going to be the one getting lowered, like near it, I'm going to like kind of know where it is. But I'm going to pass it to Ellie to talk about service animals.
Yeah, thanks, Kevin. So I am Ellie. My pronouns are she, they, and I am currently a guide dog user. And a funny thing is that my collar is also a service dog user. So, within the climbing community, it's not just blind people specific to have a service animal. Of course, there are plenty of other medical conditions and disabilities that might be useful in having a service dog. So, for example, for me, having a guide dog, it's great because instead of finding an object with my cane, my dog can just avoid it for us unless it's impossible for us to avoid it, like a curb. And so one of the biggest things I want to remind everyone is that the service dogs are not there for your entertainment, that they are there to provide a task to mitigate our disabilities, and that they're just shadows. They don't exist. They're ninjas. You wouldn't talk to my shadow because that's weird. So let's not talk to the service animals. As you might get closer to the person you are climbing with, maybe they will let you sneak in a hi when they are off duty. A huge pet peeve of mine personally, and I'm sure some of the other people within this presentation who have previously been service dog handlers, is when people talk to your dogs or pet them without permission. It's a huge distraction, and I can't speak on this half personally for medical alert dogs, but for guide dogs, if you're going to distract my dog when we're about to cross the street, that could be something that could put us in serious danger. So it's always important not to distract our furry workers. I was going to say friends, but they're good employees. I'm happy to also answer service dog questions later. It's definitely a big topic. That's like a subcategory of our presentation here. But, let's go on to questions to ask in a relationship. That is when you are belaying someone. Maybe you guys have a routine and, you call it a friendship. So belay plus friendship equals relationship. I love using that term with my collar. I think it's cute. I think it's quirky. So feel free to share this with everyone else. So something that might be useful to ask without getting into super invasive question territory. Once again, it's not about asking about the specific medical condition as to why you went blind, because everyone's on their blindness journey, like Emelina said, are you comfortable sharing information about your vision? And this question is more geared towards useful information about how we can call in a specific way to make your climbing the most effective that we can possibly make it, right? So maybe like if we're in a setting, Kevin can see darker holds while I can see the hold that best matches my hair with my hair's pink. So maybe we have different contrast issues. I recently did a route the other day without a collar, and it was a black route, and it was a very hard expedition for me. So, sometimes understanding how maybe someone can perceive color is very useful, because my brain will ignore darker holds while Kevin is able to see them better. Our next question could be something along the lines of, do you use vision or want to use vision for climbing? So, sometimes in training, it's helpful for our B1s, B2s to have some of their light perception, or like Kevin, to use his darker holds sometimes. And so that might be something interesting, but as we're getting into training, putting ourselves into the categories, maybe we're going to want to wean from using our usable vision. And sometimes our B3s will train under occlusion as well, which is when you go fully under blindfold, which is what the B1s have to do in their category. So that's also a very interesting one to do, also along the line of, are we relying on our vision too much, or do we want to trust our collar a bit more, which I never trust my collar. And our last useful question here can be, are there certain hold colors that you can see better? So yeah, back to the example of me versus Kevin. So let's go ahead and bring it on to our next, what is VI climbing plus calling?
Awesome. I would take that, Ellie. Thank you. So my favorite thing so what is VI calling plus calling? So calling is communicating with the VI climbers where holds are. So it's essentially the sighted caller is describing where the holds are like placed relative to where the person's body is, or their hands or feet and stuff like that, kind of letting them know the available holds. So with experienced blind or low vision, folks learn technique and know how to use hold effectively. So it's really more about like providing that visual description of where the holds are and available wins. Calling also helps VI climbers stay on one particular route when it's indoor, particularly. Unfortunately, we don't have this issue in competitions because they're all single routes. But oftentimes in the indoor rock climbing gym, there's like mixed routes. There could be ones that like might be darker interspersed with lighter ones, so I might not be able to see the lighter ones, but then inadvertently reach for the adjacent darker ones. Like if I'm on a black route, I might still reach for a dark blue or dark purple. So it helps kind of VI climbers with their sighted callers to describe which way to stay on route. And the really exciting and cool thing is climbing makes the callers gym more accessible for visually impaired folks to engage in climbing in a meaningful way, because you'd have the kind of with that relationship or that callership of like being able to describe like, hey, I'm looking for dark holds, I'm looking for something to something that's like overhang, or I'm looking for this particular grade, or I'm looking for mantles or like specific things to kind of like work on. So it's so next, more about VI climbing and calling. So there's different communication tools that are used, and kind of I enjoy this part of kind of like nerding out and figuring out ways of optimizing, kind of making things more efficient. The one I and a bunch of other VI climbers and callers have started with is like just a mobile phone and Bluetooth, just whether it be like your smartphone plus like AirPods or AfterShocks and things. That works okay and casually, but in the competition setting, there's one, you can't really use your phone, but they kind of make exceptions for the calling case. But there's also like a delay and lag with Bluetooth. And I actually experienced a time in nationals where Kyle was calling for me, and partially the connection like dropped. I was like, oh my god, this is not good. So there's dedicated like two-way systems that like direct connect with each other. The one that I found out about a training camp in North Carolina between nationals and the World Cup is the Cena Expand headset. And these can be used either in pairs or up to a set of like 4, but they have like half a mile range, noise canceling, and the cool thing is once I found out about that, I came back to the Bay Area and told everyone and all the VI climbers and callers about it. And I think just about most of the VI climbers got all different Cena Expand headsets, but I think Ellie's the only cool one that's got pink and purple ribbons or something on her.
Yeah, he yassified mine, and I know Phoebe has, I think, it's either nail polish or duct tape to signify hers and her collars headsets as well.
There's also walkie-talkies that are used. Depending on the walkie-talkies, might be like a push-to-talk, or it might like lock to kind of just keep the communication open. And there's also like simply talking, calling, or just like kind of like shouting out or yelling. It's kind of interesting. Like I think the one country you see this kind of more happen is like with Japan. I'm still kind of like confused because they have like all these great tech and stuff like that, but they're like just shouting out to the caller, shouting out to the climber.
There are 3 different categories at the competition level for blind climbers: B1, B2, and B3. And I know people were kind of using that terminology here. So B1 are people with the most profound sight loss. Typically, these are people with either no vision at all, some light sensitivity, maybe you can see some shapes and some shadows, that kind of thing. And that's the category that I actually sit in now. On the other end of the spectrum, you have B3. So these are people with the most residual vision, still legally blind, but maybe they're using their sight on the wall. A lot of these climbers still have a collar to support, but might need a little bit less micromanagement from their collars, maybe can see hold as they get closer, or if the contrast is good. And then B2 is sort of an in-between. Now, the way that categories are defined is when you compete at the international level, you go through a process that's called classification. And here you'll have 2 eye doctors like look at you and scrutinize your vision, and they will, based off of some technical criteria from the IFSC, will decide what category you best belong in. Now, I think it's worth calling out, and I have been personally affected by this, is that there is a little bit of controversy about how the categories are managed for a few reasons. One is that the criteria can sometimes end up with people with very different vision levels in the same categories. So for instance, because visual field, it can be on par with visual acuity, you'll have people who maybe have very limited central vision, but very good vision on the perimeter of their eyesight. And so a lot of times you can learn to adapt to that and end up using that really well. and then they're competing against people who have no good vision at any point of their sight. And so I say that because this is ever evolving, it's ever changing, and sometimes it can get a little bit disappointing when you are competing against people who are able to use their sight a lot more. And so it's an ever evolving conversation that's happening. What can also happen, especially at the international level, that they never do this at nationals, but if there's not enough people in a certain category, they will merge. And so World Championship last year, that happened, where B1 athletes who all compete with blindfolds were competing against B2 athletes, some with quite significant residual vision. And I want to make sure everybody's aware, a totally blind person can absolutely outclimb a sighted person. It happens all the time. But there's a natural disadvantage. Even if you are better than other people, it's still harder. It takes a lot more muscle, a lot longer, all these things. And so something to just remember if you do want to take this very seriously and compete at that level is that this is an aspect to any parasport. And there's always going to be conversation about how to best match everybody equally and fairly. So a continuous topic. And then I think the second piece, I don't know, Christina, about the competition dates, if I should take that one now or on a future slide.
You're good. You can take it now.
Okay. Yeah, so this year we have a few competitions coming up. So the first one is Nationals, March 9th and 10th. So that's a Saturday and a Sunday. It is in Gaithersburg, Maryland. Nationals is always a lot of fun. It's a growing sport. The community is great. And depending on your category, it can be really stiff competition, but for blind climbers, it's pretty exciting because it's still growing. And so you know, a lot of times you do end up getting to go to finals and have your moment in the spotlight. Later on this year, we have, this is almost an annual tradition at this point, but a World Cup in Salt Lake City. This year it's May 7th and 8th, which I think is that's a Tuesday and a Wednesday. So you go out to Salt Lake. Internationally, things get really serious. Some of these athletes in other countries, this is their full-time job. The government might even be paying for that team. And so it is definitely much less fun and games at that point. There's also going to be a World Cup in Innsbruck, Austria this year, June 24th and 25th. I know I'm thinking of going to that one. Same thing. This is a typically an annual one. And then later this summer, at some point, they still have not announced where or when exactly, but there will be a World Cup in France, probably, is what it seems like. Also, every 2 years, there is a World Championship. So these World Cups are just a chance for you to compete internationally in general. But the biannual championship is sort of the Masters event. That's the big one that really people come out for. So we don't know yet where it's going to be in 2025, but something to keep on the radar. People are putting their money down on Seoul, so we'll see if that ends up happening. Yeah, that'd be exciting. I don't know, Phoebe, if you're interested in speaking to the experience as a B3 climber, because me as a B1 and a B2, you know, I've had that experience, but I'm keen for you as somebody who's climbing with more vision, if you have any thoughts on that.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I guess, for me, I am one of those people like Emily said, where I don't have any central vision, but I have pretty strong peripheral vision. So training in the gym, if a route's isolated, oftentimes I can climb it without a ton of calling. But what I found the more I've done it and starting to be interested in pushing my grade and my limits and doing call climbing, I've realized having a caller lets me climb at a higher grade. When sometimes I rely on my vision to lean off the wall to look for feet or something. If you're on terrible crimps or doing something really bouncy, I may not have as much space to play with my body position on higher, when I'm trying to climb higher grade. And so I realized having a caller has been a huge help for me, especially people who enjoy reading routes and love discussing the puzzle. That's been really helpful for me to level up and climb at a higher grade than I ever have. So that's been cool. And I do think, like Kevin was saying, the access issue, it's I can walk into a gym and climb with friends or climb with anybody, but having people who are willing to call, that means it opens up sections of the wall where I can't tell the colors apart. For example, for me, it's black and green or blue and purple. I can't tell. So I just won't climb those sections if I'm not climbing with someone who's up for calling. And so there's a wide range. Calling can be anything. Like, it really is an individual relationship. There's like not rights or wrongs. Like, there's a lot of ways to do it. And so for me, it's really just like finding with a partner who's, you know, up to having a conversation about like what's on the wall, or if they're noticing I'm missing a foot, like if there's something that's in a shadow, that can make a huge difference in my ability to climb hard and like use the gym in a meaningful way and engage in comps in a meaningful way. Does that answer it, Emmeline?
Yeah, no, it really does. And actually, I'm glad you speak to the difference in climbing matters a lot based on not necessarily the level of vision itself, but rather how much somebody is using their vision. So I started climbing as a B2 climber, and I did use my sight. But for me, about 6 months to a year in, my sight was degenerating. But also we figured out that my sight was so bad that a lot of times I would see holds that either weren't actually there, or I would see a hold, but I wouldn't see another hold. But I wouldn't go to that other hold that I didn't see because my brain is a monkey brain and is just like, no, I see that one, I'm going to grab that one. And so fairly quickly, my collar and I just had me close my eyes and fully rely on my collar, because for me and my sight level, that just was a lot more efficient and made a lot more sense. And especially now that I've officially moved into the B1 category, the style of climbing is very much, if I go to the gym, I have to have a collar. So I have 2 people who can call for me right now. And so if neither of them can go to the gym, then I don't train that day. It's simple as that, because I rely so heavily on them, and I need all of that feedback. But I think it's really cool that even you as a B3, like, you've found that having the extra help makes a big difference, even if you don't rely on it as much. But yeah, I think that's my section. So I can hand it off to back to Kevin or whoever it is.
Awesome. Thanks. So I'm going to talk more about techniques for calling. So we've kind of heard this thing about calling and stuff like that. So there's a variety of different techniques depending on like the level of skill, experience. So the first one is scanning. Newer climbers often prefer this, essentially where they're just filling it out with their hands and feet, just kind of exploring. There's even like a cool technique that I think the Japan team uses where they're just kind of like reaching out like to the next hole, and they're like doing like a sweep up or down to kind of get that full like area of like whatever their arm span is, and going up or down to kind of make sure they're covering everything. So there's also like the clock face, where you can say the hold is at like 2 o'clock or at 10 o'clock, to kind of instead of like up to the right or right or whatever. There's also DDS, which is direction, distance, and shape. I think Japan and some other teams use this, but it's kind of a good thing to like think of in terms of like what are the key components or the specific things to always try to always include in calling. So you want to define like what the direction is, if it's like 2 o'clock, and how far it is, if it's either medium, long, or how far it is, or even like and also like the shape and occasion, like orientation, if it's a right side pull or a left side pull, you can kind of figure out which orientation or which way you should be grabbing and hold. So the shape's particularly useful for climbers with some vision, just because they might be able to see something there, but the specific details, what's the best positive spot to grab the hold, if there's a little jib on top or a side pull facing a particular orientation. So some people use laser pins, but they're not allowed in competition. So you might see them in like indoor climbing gyms to kind of highlight or kind of laser in on specific holds. And then also there's what's more just telling me like I don't want much calling. I kind of want to try to scan, but just tell me what's on and off. And some people will do that, like just tell them if they're on route or if they're going for a hold that's off. And like there's also like relative to body part, inside or outside. Find that particularly useful for like calling for feet or any kind of just because the clock face, like it's just super confusing and like complicated with your legs to kind of do the clock face. So like saying something like left foot to right knee, or right foot 3 feet out, or right foot to like ankle or whatever, inside ankle or something. So that's, and then there's also like kind of when you watch some of the competitive VI climbers with their collars, like the ones that are really good, it almost sounds like they're calling out like coordinates, where they're calling like 2-2 or like 10-3 or something. You're like, what the heck are they talking about? But it's kind of just more abbreviating it and kind of, so like a 2-2 would be at 2 o'clock, like a medium reach, or a 10-3 would be like up and to the left and like a full extended reach. So that's, and then next slide. So more about techniques for calling. So there's route reading a route preview, and it's essentially a combination of like talking it through and kind of describing like there's different techniques where you can break it. It's like thirds, like the first third, the middle third, and then kind of describing the different planes, and then where the crux is going to be, and like how the angle might change or the holds change kind of along the way. So there's conventional route reading where sighted climber holds the hands of the blind or low vision climber as they map the route together. So it's kind of really almost just like using the hands and the body to like kind of almost like envision and kind of like feel out how you're going to climb and move the body and like which way the angles are going to, like how far apart they are. And so you kind of get that kinesthetic feeling. There's also like tactile like topographies where folks either use Legos, Play-Doh, or something similar to create a tactile version of the climb, like when you're on the ground or some touchable surface. And then there's also like a couple of things that I've tried of like either the sighted color, like described, kind of draws out the part of the route or the crux, either on like a person's hand or arm. I've even tried more kind of tech kind of ways of doing this with something called like a dot pad, which is a tactile graphics display. So you can draw the route on like the iPad, and then you feel the kind of part of the route or the crux on a tactile graphics display where kind of is pretty instant. The lines raise up. You don't get the sense of the angle or the overhang and stuff like that, or the different planes, but you kind of get a sense of the layout and kind of where things are relative to one another.
Yeah, intersectionality in climbing. So in disability justice circles, we talk a lot about intersectionality of, in this case specifically, disability of just people often have multiple disabilities. And so just to be thoughtful as we approach climbing, people with all kinds of disabilities can climb. And especially when we take a step back from competition and all the strict rules about who goes where, at the end of the day, a lot of people just want to climb for the mental health benefits, for the community benefits, for all of those things. And so when we walk into a gym and we're working with somebody, we just want to make sure that we are really tailoring whatever the approach is to climbing. And especially in a really inclusive way. There's this phrase that I love that a couple activists came up with out in California, and it's access is love. And so thinking about providing access is an act of kindness and an act of love. And so just always be open, no matter who rolls or walks into the gym. Approach it with how, not if, right? Not if you can climb. Oh, I'm not sure if we can. No, it's always, let's think how we can do this, especially by observing how other people have done it before them. So in the case of this presentation, now you understand how blind climbers climb. Well, maybe if somebody also has an amputation, all right, we can start with the baseline of, all right, so you don't have sight. So this is like phase 1 of that. And then phase 2 is if you're only using, I don't know, one arm to climb, how can I adjust my calling to suit that scenario? Our callers are always accounting for our different body types. So for me, I think there's a debate about this with me and Alana, but I'm pretty sure I'm like 1 inch shorter or 1 inch taller or 1 inch different in wingspan. And so she has to account for that, has to account for my difference in flexibility from her and the difference in strength. And so it's the same thing here. If people with different disabilities, especially physical ones on the wall, just taking the time to really figure out are they best going to climb and how can we best combine these different things. And I can't emphasize enough, paraclimbing is growing because it's just such an inclusive space, and people find a sense of belonging in paraclimbing that they don't anywhere else in their life, because it can be a rough world out there sometimes when you have a disability. And so it's really important that whoever walks in and whoever we're working with, that we just really bring all of that energy and focus to making it a really positive experience. And just always remember, if Angelino, the Austrian who lost the use of both of his legs a few years ago, can like zoom up walls that are 50 feet high without an issue, we can figure something out for anybody who walks into the gym and wants to fight gravity with us. So just wanted to add that piece here, that there might be convergence of different disabilities and different adaptations needed, and just like go with the flow with that.
Awesome. We're gonna watch a little video of Alana and Emmeline climbing.
Getting all set, another para cliffhanger. We're seeing a lot of those.
Yeah, well, I got tired, and I said yes to a bunch of grants that went to para cliffhangers so I could sponsor a bunch of athletes. But Emmeline actually climbs in my weekly sessions in New York City, and she started actually climbing in our program, and I was like, you should probably compete. And she actually originally is from Texas.
Oh, look at that.
So her whole family is here to see her climb and compete in this competition today.
That's so exciting. Always great when you can have family out there. So Emmeline right now talking to the belayers, making sure everything is set with her collar, Alana Taub. So we're going to have to see what their communication process is like. Hopefully we get a mic on Alana. If not, we're going to get to watch them in action together, just getting started, letting Emmeline figure out where all of those holds are at the start so you can touch those holds before you get on the wall, before your attempt actually starts. All of these climbers only have one attempt. They haven't had any practice on this route. They did come out earlier with their collar and kind of had their preview of the route together. But other than that, they don't know anything else about the route in terms of how it feels or anything. So this is her first time on it, and we're excited to watch Emmeline get going here.
Left hand, left 2, up 12.
Looks like we're gonna hear Alana, so we're gonna let's listen to her and watch how it goes.
Good. Right hand, right 4, up 12. Right foot, left 2, up 6. Good, that's the jug. Right hand can also go right 4 if you want. Left hand can go your right hand, right hand, up 8. Left 2, good. Right hand, right 4. Okay, down, good. From your left 1, up 1. From your left hand, right 1, up 1. From your right hand, right 1, up 1. Right hand's gonna go right 4, up 10. So jug, down 6. Good. Left hand, right 2, up 2. You got it, breathe. Nice. Left hand's gonna go straight up 16. So left foot knee height. Step on that really big one. Good. Left hand straight up 16. You got it, breathe. Good. Left hand straight up 6. Match your hands, take a break, breathe. You got this. Match your hands where your right hand is. Good. Now you're traversing up to your right, going up to the baseball diamonds. From your right hand's going to go right 2, up 6. All right. Put your left hand where your right hand is. Right hand's going to go right 16, up 6. Right 6, right 6, right 6. Good. Right foot knee height, but down 10. Right foot go knee height, but down 4. Right 6. Right 6, up. Okay. Right foot up. Good. Breathe. You got it. Right hands matching. Good. Right hand going to go right 2, up 4. So right hand side pull. Left hand, left 2, up 12. This is a really big dual text left. Good. You're going to match, or your left hand is going to go left 6, up 4. Left foot knee height, but left 6. Good. Left hand same height, but left 4. Left hand bumps left. Right foot up by your right knee. Left hand, left 4, up 8, or up 10. Good. Left foot, left hip height, but left 8. Stepping on your thigh. Good. Right hand, this comes across onto the pyramids. So you're going to go from your left hand straight up 6. It's a right hand crossing up. Breathe. You got it. Bump again. So right hand's going to go up 6, left 2. Right foot, right hip height. Put your right hand back down. That's the hold. Press off your left foot. Right foot goes up. Good. Right hand up 6, left 2. Here comes the side pull. Left hand from your right. Left 6, up 4. Left foot knee height, but left 8. Good. Match your hands. Breathe. Where your left hand is, matching your feet. Left hand's going to go left 8, up 6 to this jug. That's the hold. Good. Right foot down 4. Good. Switch your feet. From your right foot, you have one right by your right knee. Here comes your right hand large ledge. From your hands, you're going out right 14, up 10. This is a really large ledge. You have a yellow hold on it. Match your feet. Right foot can go knee height, but right 10. Right 4, down 1. Either of those are on. Obviously, that one works. Yep. You go to the right a half, you have another better hold. Right there. Yep. breathe. You got it down. Yes, perfect. Match your hands. This is the traverse from bottom left to top right. Left hand crosses over, up 2, good. Right foot knee height, but right 10. Right hand even higher, good. Breathe. Right foot, right 4, right 4. Right hand, match your hands. Right hand is gonna bump out right 16, up 4. You got it, breathe, good. Right hand out, good. Perfect, left foot, left knee height. Right foot, big feet on the right. Right foot, knee height, but right 10. Down 4, down 4, down 4. Good, match your hands. Right foot, knee height, but right 10. Breathe. From your right hand needs to go right 2, up 16. So that's where you're going to be a left hand cross. So move your feet over to your right. Right foot, right 6, down 4. Good. Match your hands. Your right hand is left hand crosses up to your right, to your right, to your right. Right 6, right 6. Good. Right there. Right foot, knee height, but straight up 2. Step up. Up 2. Good. Match your feet. This is the hold out right that we got in trouble for. So stand up on your right. Right foot, knee height, but right 6. Right hand's going right 16, up 12. You got it. Right foot, knee height. So right foot, right 6, up 6. Breathe. You got it. Right foot up. Or drop your foot straight up to your right. Good. Left foot, knee height, but left 6. Left foot, knee height, but left 6. Left hand is going straight up 16. This is going to be a small crimp. You got it. Right foot. Yep. Good. Left hand straight up 12. Right hand crosses over. From your left hand's going left. Good. Cross over there. Good. Stand right there. Right foot in by your heel down 2. Right by your right ankle. Good. You're crossing over from your left. You're going to go left 6. This is the rail. So left hand's going left 6. Down by your left elbow. Left elbow. Left elbow. Good. Breathe up a little higher. So straight left 2. Good. Match your hands there. Left foot, left 4, up 4. Good. Come on. Breathe. Yep. For your feet. You're going to switch your feet. Right foot goes to your left. Left hand is going to go. This is the big move up. So left hand's going to go left 4, up 18. You have feet where your left foot is 4. Left foot knee height, but left 16. Good. You got this. Good. Left foot knee height, but left 6. Left 6. Down 4. Good. Left hand straight up. You're going to crimps. Good. Right there. Left hand straight up. Left 2.
So close.
I'm sorry, but that was so...
I could speak.
That was so exciting watching the conversation between, or the calling from Alana. It was so quick, so specific, so many abbreviations.
Generally indoors, and it might be different for gyms, but I have definitely traveled around to a few places, and I think normally gyms kind of set with hold families in mind. And so one thing that Emmeline and I have done is we kind of identify our own names for our own families of holds. So this will give us a reference point. So one example is like we'll have a French fry pinch. So it'll be like it's a pinch, but a French fry pinch is something that's about 3 feet long and probably like 4 inches wide, and we know that that's a reference point. Mm-hmm. But she also then knows the depth between the wall and the edge of the hold that she's actually grabbing. And so then if we get onto a situation where we have micro crimps, if we have a micro crimp, and crimps generally are going to have a small edge, the default crimp edge is going to be, if I say micro crimp, she knows it's basically a half pad from the wall surface to her. But if it's a micro crimp on a larger volume, I'll say you're going to a larger volume hold. So like, let's say we'll call it an egg. So we have a dinosaur egg. So we think of an egg that's like 3 feet. Like think of an egg that's been cut in half. It's not like 3 feet. So now it's like 1.5 against the wall. And so it's like you have a dinosaur egg. You have a micro crimp on that. So what I'm referencing is you've taken an egg that's now been cracked a little bit, and that surface edge that you're finding is a micro crimp, but the distance away from the wall is that 1.5 at dinosaur egg. So I think if you start when you're on the ground, because you kind of have the time to talk through hold families, I'll be like, okay, well, most of the holds are going to be French fry pinches with some dinosaur eggs. So she knows like the depth of it. And then I think the other component, which I'll kind of allude to, is also sometimes wall angles. You'll have like roof features. And so if you get to climbing in other gyms, eventually climbers will know like, okay, like if I'm at the left side of the gym, I know that the roofs are 2 feet away. So when I say like the first roof feature, she knows it's going to be like 2 feet away, which means that she knows that if she has her foot below the roof, her hand can be above the roof and her feet won't have to cut. First, if she's on the right half of the gym, the roof will maybe be 3.5 feet away, which means that unless she keeps her toes very strongly engaged, her feet will have to cut, or she'll need to heel hook before she's able to reach up. And then if you go to other gyms, you can just say, okay, so you're going to get to a roof, and the roof is like the left half of the gym, or the roof is like the right half of the gym. Versus with wall angles, okay, it's going to be a 30-degree, 45, 60-degree wall angle, so she knows how much overhung it's going to be, how much core, how much hips into the wall, stuff like that. Does that kind of help answer the question?
Yes. It feels far off from possible, but yeah.
Well, I think also the key of what Alana's talking about is talking through those weird 3D features while you're still on the ground. And that's been really important. When we have a tricky segment, it's going to be really hard for me to memorize an entire 50-foot route. But if we can at least work through the weird sequences, or, okay, listen, you're going to get to this spot and you're going to have to reach like back 6 and like up 2. And then I know once we get there, she'll say, hey, it's that spot. That's really the trick for those really weird situations.
Thank you.
Alana, can I ask you another question? Do you think that callers and climbers should be like similar grade? Like, do you think that if someone's maybe that's calling is a higher grade, that they might call beta that's maybe a little bit too hard? Or how do you feel about different grade levels between caller and climber?
I personally think it doesn't matter too much the difference between grading. I think there's a benefit, though, to having the climber being able to read the beta that the climber is doing, just in terms of weight distribution, movement, and efficiency for optimizing resting. So I think the pros of having, so for example, like when Emmeline and I started, I was a better climber than Emmeline, which was nice because I could climb everything that she was on. And we were similar in body height and like, at least like height wise and like, we'll say wingspan. So I could basically know that I was like, okay, if I'm standing here, I know she can reach up. Versus if I'm calling for someone who's a little bit taller than me, I might be like, I don't know if you can reach that and you might have to move your foot up first. Like I could see they can go higher. But it's okay. Let's say if Emmeline is going to project something super hard that I couldn't do, as long as I can identify the holds and where she needs to keep her weight, then it's up to the climber to be able to like physically be strong enough to grab onto that hold. So I think main thing is understanding the movement, which sometimes people get by being able to climb on equal levels with their climber. But also if they just understand the movement, I think it's totally fine if they climb at different levels.
We're already pretty much in a Q&A, but I just want to like open that up to anyone. So like our presenters that are here today are VI climbers. There's also some callers in the crowd that know some stuff. And so like if you're part of like the panel, you know who you are, go ahead and introduce yourself if you like are choosing to answer a question, and just give a little bit about your like experience. But if anyone has any questions, you can put them in the chat or raise your hand to ask it out loud. And then I have a list of questions from when people signed up for the or to like register for the event. So we'll go through what anybody has to say, and then or put in the chat, and then I will make sure we answered all the questions that people had asked in their registration as well. But somebody just asked a question, said, do you call flagging or body positioning? If so, any tips?
This is Phoebe. I can take this from the climber side, which I do sometimes have friends like be like, I think as a B3 climber, if I'm getting more info from like the holds I can see, if my caller's like, I'm not sure, like, can you flag here? Like that can often be helpful, but I think it just depends on your personal relationship. Like if you're someone who really reads the route and you really see the body position, I'm sure some VI climbers would like love that data. I don't know if anyone else wants to chime in on it.
As a caller, I think it's absolutely critical to do that.
Sorry, Alana here. I'm also going to add a little bit to the do you call out flagging or body positioning? I think it depends on how vital the flag or body position is for the efficiency of the move and also the hold that the climber is going to. So let's say you're on a warm-up climb, right? And so let's say you're on like really good holds, like really good jugs. In that situation, if you want to drill flagging and body positioning, you can, but it's not super important versus if you're on much smaller holds or it's a little bit overhung, and knowing that if your climber turns their hip into the wall and lets go of one foot, that they're going to be more balanced, they're going to have like a unidirectional force of tension, that they're going to be more aligned and less likely to peel off the hold that they're on or going to, and it's going to optimize that movement, then yes, I would call it. And that's where I would say I would first want to give the direction that the climber's going. So you always want to tell them, I think, in the up direction first, because for feet, they've already used that theoretically for hands, and I find that most VA climbers have a really good sense of proprioception. So if they've already used it for a hand, they'll at least know it's in the area for their foot. So I'll say, like, okay, your right hand's going to be going, let's just keep it simple, at your 1 o'clock. So it's going to be up and to your right. So that means they know they need to go up to their right. And if I'm having their right foot up, it's going to be easier if they turn their right hip into the wall and they're reaching back on the diagonal because their hips are leading in the direction that their body weight is going. So I can say, right hand's going up high, turn your right hip in, you've identified the hold, and then the next thing they're naturally going to want to move is their left foot up because they're weighting their right. And this is kind of definitely climb dependent, but you'll figure out how your climber is moving, whether it's what we call frogging, where your hips are square to the wall, or maybe that your hips are turned into the side. And also you'll figure out your climber, I think, will naturally know that movement, that when they're going up to the right, it will be more efficient for them to turn that hip into the wall and reach up with their right hand. So I think it's kind of like a give and take.
We have a question in the chat that says, do you use your gear, like your communication gear, like your headset and stuff, for training or only for competitions? And aren't they disturbing? And I would like to ask if you could, like, expand on disturbing, because that might, I'm not sure what you mean there. But if anyone wants to take that.
This is Kevin. I can take that one. Yeah, the headsets I use it for training, and I actually even found it to work with other adaptive sports like skiing. But yeah, kind of definitely use it for training and the competition. I'm not quite understanding the distracting part. It allows for like the caller and climber to be able to more hear each other better and kind of have that more direct communication. And I guess if you want to hear the surrounding gym or interact with other people, then the two of you, then you can take the headsets off. And I have, so
This is Ellie. I can kind of expand. I think what we're meaning on the disturbing end of things because of my own thoughts. So yeah, I'm kind of 50-50 on if I wear my headset or not in training, because my collar's kind of been absent a little bit due to personal stuff. But there are times that I don't want to wear the headset because I just get so sweaty. And with my headset, I'm very lucky it came with an extra the ear muff, that foam. So I can switch out my foams and wash them because they get sweaty and gross and I'm scared of a MRSA infection. But as far as the specific headsets that we have, so there's no delay, and it's nice. They're a little on ears, nice sensitive little ears. But my main quarrel is sweat. But I guess that's a personal thing.
Cool. Awesome. So.
Can I add one quick note about that?
Yeah.
Easy. Wearing the Senna headsets, like in B3, I don't use a cane, so people don't always identify me as a visually impaired person, but I have had community members in the gym, like, see me and my husband using our headsets, and they're like, what are those cool things? And it's, like, can be a cool opportunity to, like outreach to community members, be like, oh, I have bad vision, he helps me spot, hold. And also it can be nice too, like sometimes if you're top roping for hours or you're like comp training and you're in the gym all the time, it's nice to just like chitty chat, even if you're not necessarily, like if you're just warming up and you don't need to call, it actually is nice because you can catch up with your climbing partners when you're 40 feet up and just chat or like whatever, tell your partner about the grocery list or whatever while you're up there. So I like it. I think it's nice.
the funniest one is like I remember Ellie and Sarah Beth telling a story about like I guess even when they're not near each other that they're still like talking to each other on the headset. People looking at them like, who are they talking to?
Yeah, that's one of the parts I love the most. Sarah Beth had gone to fill up a water bottle, and we were in Pack Pipe, which is one of the largest climbing gyms ever. And I was in one half of the gym, and she had walked to the other half to fill up her water bottle. And just people looking at us like I was weird, and I was singing to her in the mic because that's what I do on the wall. So let me do it as you fill up your water. It was a great experience. I recommend doing that to scare people in the gym.
Awesome.
It also helps so that the caller doesn't look like some jerk just screaming beta at somebody up on the wall.
Fair.
actually know it's a VI climber, not you just screaming beta continuously at someone.
All right, I'm going to pull one of the questions from the registration. So what are the best practices or techniques for calling on like a 3D surface? So where there are like multiple planes on either side, including under, roof, and like are there words that you can like, I don't know, do you have any sort of accuracy key is what it seems to be asking.